So as I say, architecture is actually built twice, once on paper and once on site.
Okay.
So the cheapest is to build on paper.
Yes. Where do you think owners underestimate costs when it comes to designing and running a hotel?
Anywhere between 1.4 crore per key to 3 crores per key is a cost, and it can really go up. You could go to a very beautiful resort, but if your air conditioning or your heating is not working, you will be taken for a tour. You would certainly forget that what exactly the view was, what beautiful property you were staying in, what was the plush carpet and how was the upholstery. Suddenly it's all about the services.
Yes.
Because it's very simple, hot water is needed now.
From the owner's perspective, they want ROIs, but your focus again would be guest experience. How do you, and it's a big tug of war that always keeps happening. How do you manage that?
So I really believe that the guest first approach has to be there, but it has to be ROI driven. It's very simple. I don't even carry plans around. What I want to do is actually walk the site first,
Okay.
because the site will give me the right answer.
What are the hardest conversations that you routinely have with the owners? Hotels and resorts look effortless when you're sipping a cocktail by the pool. But behind that cocktail is a team full of operations, full of guest experience, owners, and also an architect who's done copious amount of work behind the scenes to make sure that the hotel looks the way it looks. Today on Design and Dialogues, I'm joined by architect Love Choudhary from Ant Studio. We will be discussing hospitality architecture and where it's heading in the coming future. Let's dive into this chat one dialogue at a time. Architect Love, welcome to Design and Dialogues.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Before we delve into the topic of hospitality architecture, let's start from the very beginning. Ant Studio, what is the design philosophy there?
I would say before even I dive into the philosophy of Ant Studio, I would say that we are one studio that believes in talking to people,
Okay.
listening to people, which is very hard to uh, think in these times where people just want to put out their thought process, their emotions. So we are someone who will listen to our clients, and the philosophy is very human-centric. Before we even talk about drawings, we talk about any other things. We put pen to paper. It's about the art of listening, to really deep dive into what exactly is the narrative that the client is bringing onto the board. What is his thought process? It's a lot of anxieties, a lot of dilemma of previous past design mistakes that they would have done, and they are coming up with a lot many other insights. So it's all about listening to them and then really coming up with a solution. So the first philosophy that Ant Studio really believes in is to listening to your client and then listening to the land. So that is where we at Ant Studio we say this is who we are.
I was about to ask you if you go with a guest first approach or an operation first approach when you're doing your projects. You've pretty much given your answer there as well. You always look at the human side of things first. What excites you in the hospitality world these days?
So I would say like guest first and the owner first or the project first is not the philosophy there, as I said earlier. It is about human first, because who are inhabiting these spaces? It's humans, right? Who is making it? It's a operator, it's a owner, he's a human. Who is going to be working over there in the services, in the back of the house, people who would move around, is again the staff. So they are humans, right? And who are the last end consumer? It's people like me, people like you, who are actually the right people who are coming over there to reinvent, reconfigure, decompress, from the daily life. They want to, obviously they come here for a certain time, but they want to take back something, take back something from what they had lived, the nuance or the pause that they had lived. And they travel and they come to a place, they congregate, they celebrate, they have very different emotional experiences. And that is what an architecture or a design project should do, that you make them run through or feel those emotions, and then they can go back to who they were, but reinventing themselves. So this is where as a philosophy of Ant Studio, we have been working on. And what excites me now and what excited me 5 years earlier would be I was really crazy about the scale of the project, about building big 300 room property, 200 room property, which sounds very good, at the start. It's like you are really, really talking big. But since the time has passed and I have seen those properties grow, they have aged. There's a lot of learning that I've taken back, and that is now it's all about the moment of pause, the silence. Silence is something that you really don't feel these days. If you have to sit for 5-10 minutes by yourself, you are crowded by thoughts. You
Yeah.
can't really. You start to you feel your heartbeat. You feel the way you are breathing in and breathing out, and at a certain level we are all broken because we are not connected with all these things. These somehow feel that we need uh, a sense of just filling that gap or filling that void. That silence is no more understood in a very different way. So in hospitality projects, the way we build it, we want people to have that pause. We want people to have that emotion of what a silent space can do to you,
And living in the moment.
and living in the moment, because that
Yes.
is what it does. Because if you're talking about enhancing your senses need to feel it before you do. So your sight, your sound, what you smell, what you touch, these are the things that will excite you more. So the projects going forward is the detailing of these projects, and the scale is somehow left behind. It's now about that human centric approach and coming to that level or the pause that you go from one space to other, the transition of the spaces. It's very neutral in a way that you think of yourself in that space and that what emotion you can do. So when we are even doing like an area program or a zoning diagram, we don't name this as spaces like a restaurant or a all day dining or a room. It's an emotion.
Okay.
What emotion you want to portray when you're
Invoke, yeah.
designing that space. That first emotion should be this. Let's say if I'm hungry and famished and I want to go to an all day dining, what should it look like? My senses should heighten up. I should feel the urge of really feeding myself, and that should be with the you smell some spices, you can see the mist coming out from a hot chicken or something. So it's just your senses. So it's just how your senses kind of heighten up when you walk into a space. So that is what we are trying to do, which is human centric, and this is what excites me today.
There has been a visible shift as well that's been happening. You mentioned about the slow travel, people taking a pause, and you want that as well for people to happen. There are wellness resorts now. There is more experiential hospitality out there. What do you think? Where do you think the industry is heading? Do you still because there's a big trend for all these? Do you think there's still space for your fast-paced hospitality projects?
I think wellness is become a bare minimum now. It is not something that has to be just kept in a spa or a sauna sort of a space or even a gym space. Wellness is the way you do architecture now, the way you integrate the landscape, the way you integrate the sun, the way you integrate the light, the way you integrate the air. It's all coming back how you can connect it to my senses. What should I feel in a space? Rather than, the era of that high noise, which is at the end of the day sort of a pollution. It's a noise pollution.
Yeah.
These high energy parties work for you to a certain level or a certain age group. Let's say I'm 38 now. What I used to be at 25, 28. If I walk into a same space, I would have a different energy. But today my energy is very different, right?
Definitely.
So now what I look forward to is a more relaxed, a more of a hospitality space which talks to me rather than I talk to it. It makes me take a pause. Makes me take a moment of or a nuance in a space where I can just sit and observe. Observe things like the shifting of the shadows, just the movement of the trees. Certain things where you kind of connect back and the time slows down. So for me, wellness and architecture are something which are very uh, cohesively thought of.
Okay.
But architecture is something that can really elevate wellness to a different level. It is not just something which should be like on paper that we are a wellness resort. Your architecture, the way you have treated the landscape, the way you are treating your spaces, people should feel wellness in all. Like as I said, we are all broken. We come to a certain space. That space should heal us. It should be in way very therapeutic. That when you come in, it's giving something back to you, and then you reinvent in that space, and then you go back to who you were. But that space has done something, some sort of a small magic, I would say, or some sort of a reinvention that generally happens in the conversation that you have with the space. Like just imagine you go to any of the hill stations, and if you could have the luxury of sipping a tea at 7 a.m. in the morning with the sunrise, that is luxury. Now, what goes behind is architecture. Architecture does not have to be the front face, it can just be the background. So the life goes in front of it. So, even I say to people, before architecture appears when the construction site is happening, I don't know how many people would have looked at. I have sat on sites at 6 a.m. in the morning when there is no one, or I have gone to sites when there is no one at site and the day is off. 6 p.m., 7 p.m. in the hills, they shut. I've been to site at that time as well. And what I see is the kind of life that is already around it. I was shaping an architecture to, the people will come and they will start inhabiting. But before the architecture appears, there is life already around it. Maybe they're around nearby dogs who start already, making a home around them. Their life is already continuing. They grow up, the pups are there. There are people who are already on the construction sites who are working. They are doing their food and other things. These are life which is already happening around it. We are thinking of a life when the architecture is ready, but there's so much happening beyond that. And that is what the construction process and the architecture process gives you when it's slow, when it's not fast paced. So wellness today is also go at your own pace. It is about healing at your own will. It's not something that you have a magic pill, you just take it and then you're fine. No, it is a journey. So your architecture design, the way you do it, is something which we can say it is heightening your senses, healing you, and making you realize that who you are as a true person, or what is your true potential.
Well said. What kind of resorts are you seeing more of today? And we'll give you a couple options and you choose one out of the other, right? Boutique or large format?
See, there is a place for both of them, but boutique certainly is picking up because it's very personalized. Personalization or this intimate feeling can be volumed up. You can increase in volume, but what already is in volume, which is the bigger hotels, cannot be scaled down because they have been always designed in a way. It's the wow effect, the first effect, the grand lobby, the grand ballroom, and all these things. But to a level, they kind of flourish in a certain setting. If it's a party setting, if it's a wedding venue, yes, because that's the moment that they're living for. But someone who's going for a leisure resort is probably not a fanatic who wants a shot in one go. It's just like how you like your tea or coffee, or how you would have a hot chocolate. It's sip by sip. You want to feel it, you want to
enjoy it,
savor it. Yes, exactly. It has to grow slowly on you. So the boutique properties are able to do that. And the boutique properties probably, the ones which are more, I would say, not really accessible, but they are still accessible to a certain length, but not really, you have to travel a lot to reach certain property. But certain, regions where you can actually travel, you have the fun of reaching that place.
A little bit of remote.
Exactly. So that remote property, boutique property experience takes you out of your comfort zone. It puts you in a certain environment. And then when the architecture unfolds, it's something very beautiful.
And what about wellness versus party resorts?
Who I used to be when I was 25, I would love to go in a party place, There are places all across the world, from Dubai to London to Miami. There is everywhere in India as well, obviously. Like what Goa used to be is not what you see now Goa being.
Definitely.
People travel, they're staying in more B&Bs, there are more boutique stays that the people, because they want that slow life to come in. So the party places had their time, but now it's all about wellness. It's about healing. As a human shift has happened, as generations have gone by, all this becomes noise. You want to detach yourself from the noise. And these are places where I would have gone as a 20-year-old, 25-year-old. I would do the same thing. But these don't resonate to me anymore, because now as a 38-year-old, it's not aging, but it's like you want more finer things in life. Now you don't want chaos, you want clarity.
Yeah.
You don't want noise, you want a sense of peace, a silence, a charm which is, where you can understand yourself more. And the place just has to give you that, or it has to bestow you with this kind of a space where you can be yourself. It does not have to force you. As architects, as designers, we do make a function and a form. But I think it's the emotion of that space that should shape it.
Very important, yeah.
So if we can do that, then the wellness is the part that will really, pick up, and is already picking up all across the world. You see that. Yeah.
If I would have asked you the same question maybe 10 years ago, you would have given me a very different answer.
I would be a different person.
Yeah.
Because my experiences, my mistakes, what I've learned from my clients is very different now.
You probably also see what target market the hotel is really targeting, and that's when you build that narrative, that picture around the hotel as well, because at the end of the day, a 25-year-old would not really like a wellness resort, if we're generalizing, so to speak. True. So what kind of hotels do you think in the next decade will cease to exist?
Loud, noisy party hotels will cease to exist, because there will be a space within that hotel that you can carve out specifically for this kind of energy. But the energy going forward is very mellowed down. It's very natural. So what your land has to offer, what your architecture has to offer, is a part of a conversation with the ownership, with the operator, and what exactly the site wants, what the land wants. These high energy spaces that we create in a bar, be it the banquet spaces, be it a loud lobby. Now people just want to achieve a sense of true well-being. When they arrive at a place, the emotion has to be really high, why they have come over here. So when you come to a grand hotel lobby, then you're seen, and people somehow hide to be in the spotlight. They want to just be by themselves. So imagine a hotel lobby where you have a grand reception, and there are another 20-50 people waiting at the reception, and now, okay, this person will go, second person will go, and like that. Now that format with time has changed. Now there's sit down receptions. Instead of having a proper attendant table, you have it on the sofa. You could do it anywhere. I could check in the reception. It could be the first thing that I could do. So these are the spaces that are becoming more human-centric. They're more intimate. And intimate is something that is valued more, because you are heard, you are valued. The spotlight is there, but it's a very soft one where you and me are interacting, just the way we are doing this podcast right now. It's very intimate. There's a lot, many things happening around us, but right now we are focusing on each other.
Just a subject,
but when you see a bigger picture and there are 100 people, there are so many distractions around you. You really don't feel that same feeling. And people really want to just experience the sense of calmness when they come in. If it's chaotic right at the start, your experience is already gone away. Let's say I travel to a place like Lansdowne or Dehradun, and I travel by road. I've already drove 6 hours, 7 hours. The first thing I should not see is not dhol baja and all those things. The first thing I should not feel is this.
Overwhelmness.
Yes, I have to decompress my emotions. I have to decompress my tiredness. I have to decompress from the halt that I've already taken. So this should feel like a sense of arrival, that I have arrived. Now I'm at a place where I should be at ease. I should feel comfortable, for sure. I should be in a sense of calmness, that when I arrive, now I can be myself. And when the property takes me around, I go around and the views kind of unfold. So even I hate seeing this in many of the properties, which have been done in the past. I would not name a few of them, but they give away too much too quickly.
Okay.
It's like
what do you mean by
instant gratification.
Okay.
So you have the spectacular view, right? And then suddenly you come in the lobby and the view is there. But why? Why can't it be in a way that it can fragment and the architecture can unveil it differently? Like what it looks in the morning and what it looks in the evening should not be in one shot. It can be captured in a different way. It can be a narrative, or where you walk from one space to the other. So your morning to afternoon to evenings will feel very different. The way the sunlight changes, the temperature changes, and so does your circadian clock. So who you are in the morning, you might not be the same person in the evening.
Definitely.
So your emotions shape the day, and those emotions are derived from the space you are in or what happens around you. So why not take it, as I said, sip by sip, enjoy it, so flavor it in a way that there's layers to it, rather than just being the one shot. Because it will be there, or it might become an Instagrammable moment, but it does not live.
I was about to say that.
You
Yeah.
want to revisit those emotions. Consider it like you fell in love for the first time. What happens? The emotions are so high. And then with the same person, you fall out, but then you fall in love with the second person. What are you trying to do? You're trying to live that emotion again. It's not the person anymore, because you have maybe, there were things that you did not like in the person. There are things that you were not right. So you try to be a better person, or you try to improve every day. And when you get into the second relationship, the first one was about that emotion. Now you want to live that emotion. And even if today, if I've fallen in love with someone, the places I went to, they meant certain things. There was certain emotional resonance to it. Now I want to live it again. The person is not there, but I want to have that emotional. So architecture and design and hospitality spaces can make you revisit those spaces again, but being a different person. So you should revisit, or maybe the idea should be that I want to revisit this space because it made me feel in a certain way, but I could not decode it in the first go. It happens through a period of 1 day, 2 day, 3 days. You see the seasons as well. So at a time I go to a property, I only see one season, and this is how the property looks. The second season I have to go and see again. I can see it in photographs, but I have not lived it.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to be like a picture that you see summer, you see winter, and you see snow. No, that's not it is. There's a lot many things which leads to it.
100%. Let's talk about timelines. How long does it actually take for a hotel to get ready, on an average in India, from first sketch to first guest that walks into the door?
Correct. So see, it takes anywhere between 36 months to 60 months in
Okay.
India, because of the way our system is, getting approvals, getting the right site. All this takes a lot of time. But before even we go into this, it's actually the conversation with the owner. A lot of owners comes to us and they already have a requisite idea of this is what I want. I want to make something, let's say Umaid Bhavan. I want to do like this XYZ Alila. I want to do this sort of a Hyatt Regency. They're coming up with a notion already. Now imagine you go to a market and you buy a shirt for yourself, but you have a certain fit. You go through a repository of shirts which are there, right? Or there is one tailor-made. Now the site needs tailor-made, but you are getting it to just get someone
Whatever
from
is
the
out
market
there.
and quote it. Then it will not be the right understanding or the requirement of the site. So the owners need to understand that first the land has to be, the land has to be rightly studied. What that land needs is very important. There's a preliminary area program, as we call PAP, which comes from the brands, where they do this feasibility study, what exactly this land parcel should have, what the feasibility of the space is, and then we put it to pen to paper. So that is something that has to be understood with the operators, because the operators do not understand that there is a consequence cost. So as I say, architecture is actually built twice, once on paper and once on site.
Okay.
So the cheapest is to build on paper now.
Yes.
They forget that. They want to do rush timelines. The beauty of the property is not now. It is after maybe day 5,000.
Yes.
How exactly it is shaping, how it has aged, and that will teach more. So I'm excited with conversations when the client says how it will look from now and in 5 years or 10 years, how this material will look. Those are conversations that kind of perk up my ears, that these are the right conversations that we're having. Timeline is something when you put things on paper and you have sorted it, it will take least amount of time to execute. But if you're doing it back and forth, or if you're building at site and drawing as well, you can only focus on one space.
Yes.
So that 36 months to 60-month timeline varies from that.
Yeah.
But let's say I divide it into a concept design, design development, tender. I don't know if you know of these terms, but these are the terms that we generally use.
Yes.
To conceptualize a space, you need at least 8 to 12 months of time, from architecture to interior. Then design development, where the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, all these things come in. You could go to a very beautiful resort, but if your air conditioning or your heating is not working, you will be taken for a tour. You would certainly forget that what exactly the view was, what beautiful property you were staying in, what was the plush carpet, and how was the upholstery. Suddenly, it's all about the services.
Yes.
Because it's very simple. Hot water is needed now, not after.
Yes.
Right? So the MEP is very much that needs to be resolved right now. And I believe the back of the house becomes the most important backbone of a hospitality project.
Definitely.
So if there is a problem or a cookie cutter approach has been applied to the back of the house designing, or the timeline that you actually gave while practicing or designing it on paper, it will show in the way the property will run. The staff will be in chaos because they don't have things sorted. They don't understand how exactly things are working. So all of this is very important when design development is going on. Then the tender document and the construction is when you actually hit site. So it itself can take from 18 months to 24 months. So this timeline comes from 36 months to 60 months is what it will take in India to build a good resort property.
Budgets. Architects hate talking about a vague budget. Someone says कि थोड़ा budget है, or we have a lot of money to spare. Just do what you think is best. Where do you think the problem lies there? And if you have to put a number to the budget, what do you think is a per key expenditure that a good hotel in India sort of expects?
So see, I don't have a bias with the budget. It's very important that it has to be in a budget. You know, certainly we don't live in an era where we have kings who can order to build the Taj Mahal. We need to have properly functioning machines, if I may call it, but they need to have an emotion. So they are no more like machines, but they have to work in a certain way, and then you have to budget it in that process. So with ownerships, when we talk about budgets, is always the conversation of what you should be doing now and not later on. Like I said, you have to think of all the scenarios that can go wrong, not when you're building it, but while you're designing
Operating,
it. Yes. So operating even comes as a third stage,
Okay.
because there's a sort of timeline of 3 to 6 months where the soft opening happens, where
Yes.
the staff is trained, where the systems are running, and it could crash, but it should not crash when you're actually inviting the guests. You
Yes.
should run through that process.
Yes.
It's almost like you learn to cycle yourself and there was someone helping you. But the first time you suddenly feel 10 minutes into the cycle riding, I know it all, and then suddenly you fall. And that's what exactly happens in hospitality. That you need to know that the system is foolproof. To make that system foolproof, you really need to budget it down to the core when you're designing it. But yes, that is the problem that happens with a lot of hospitality owners who are the first time hoteliers. They fall in love with the product.
Okay.
Being passionate is something else, but falling in love is something else. You go over budget or you cut too much. You can't do the same for both the things. It's like, yes, you could say that, it's like how much sugar I like in my tea and coffee. I can really keep on adding sugar, but does it add value and flavor? No. At a certain time, you would say that this is enough. That embellishment can happen in interiors. But since I said that the properties that we are developing now are going more towards the wellness side, so it's not about this, superficial sustainability, superficial materials. It is about how these materials are naturally being used,
Okay.
and how they will age. So a budget has to be put to that, because it's very easy, as I said, to do it twice on site for 4 times the cost. So it's better to get it right in the first place.
Yes.
And answering your second question, that if I say per key cost, anywhere between 1.4 crore per key to 3 crores per key is a cost, and it can really go up, depending on the kind of category of properties. And people say I can increase the category and it will increase the key count. No, it is not. There's so many hotels who are higher in category but have a per key count lesser, because they are more sustainable in different aspects, because the building design and the way the environment has been designed, you are really specifying those things. You are really focusing on those things. A property like Alila that we are currently doing as well, it does not come at a huge cost. There is a cost to it, but it comes from this sense of what exactly true sustainability means, what vernacular architecture can bring. It is like connecting you to the right material as well. Like if I'm sitting on this chair, right now I have this upholstered leatherette chair, but what if I could actually sit on a jute finish sort of a chair, and I am on a tropical, sort of a land. So it connects with the nature. It connects with the local requirement, local culture. Like you go to Maldives, have you ever seen marble finishes on the floor? No, you would even not remember what finish it was, because the landscape in front of you is so beautiful. You're walking on sand half of the time. They don't do flooring.
Yeah.
You generally have your slippers on. You are walking on the sand. Your all-day dining, half of them that I have visited, never have a flooring. It's just a space where you maybe lay down food or some. You have that.
Where do you think owners underestimate costs when it comes to designing and running a hotel?
I would say most of them don't underestimate the cost, they underestimate the consequences.
Okay.
You cut the cost down today, and the consequence of it would be a blunder later. As I said, maybe in MEP or the back of house, or maybe in the staffing, you are so understaffed that you are not able to run the property, to its original strength. Or the way you have done the mechanical or the electrical or the plumbing design is not true to what exactly has to be received. As I said, I need hot water now.
Yeah.
It's not available, or there is a problem with the system. That will hurt you more than any other cost. But if you could have budgeted a proper system right in the start, the consequence would be far more lesser. And that is what burdens a lot of properties. A lot of properties that I see in India opened with the all hoo-ha, and in another 3 to 5 years, there you see they're already coming down.
Aging.
They're aging. Yes, aging is something which is natural. It will happen, but they are not aging gracefully. The way it should, the way the property is being maintained.
Yeah.
So half of the time there is a firefighting going on in the staff just to manage that. Whereas the idea is to attend to you as a guest. But that is where the properties go haywire, because the initial design did not allow that space to grow. The initial design never thought of the things that could go wrong. Even from the simplest of the things of providing a back of the house corridor, providing a laundry space, all these things, they add up to the consequence. And this is what the Indian hospitality owners need to really worry about. That is the cost of the consequence. It's not the cost of the price today. It is what it can make you. Even if you lose like for 3-4 days, let's say 5 of your rooms don't work because of the HVAC, or some electrical fault or plumbing fault, or maybe a banquet goes bust because of certain things, what would you lose then? Then today, if you build in the right systems today,
Opportunity
if
cost.
you think, yeah, exactly. So you do that today, then you will be saved on these costs.
Yeah. I was about to ask you, what is one of the biggest expensive mistakes that an owner could make, and you've laid out very aptly. Poor MEP, no proper layout for back of house. Have you can you give me an example where you've come across something very personally in a hotel where the MEP or the back of house is not laid out really well, and that has given them a big pain in the backside because of that?
I will, in fact, tell you, and this is a very interesting story. So, this is how the story goes. So, instead of the MEP, the first part of the project, which is structure,
Yeah.
there was a failure in the structure.
Okay.
And how that failure happened, I will tell you. While we are designing the project, we also rely on consultants. So, there was a topographical survey that the client provided to us. And this is of a project that we were doing in Kasoli. And the land was used as a dumping ground for everything around, because
Okay.
that is what happens in the hills. You don't dump it anywhere.
Yeah.
You dump it to any extra or any land that is
Yeah.
available, and people dump it.
Okay.
But then ultimately someone will buy that land. But you never know how much dumping has been done.
Yeah.
Because while you purchase it, you know the strata which is on the top, but you don't know the strata which was there 10 years back.
Yeah.
So we picked up the land and we asked the client to get a topographical survey. Being him who he is, he did a cookie cutter experiment sort of a thing, got a local topographical guy to do it, who did not have the understanding of doing these kind of properties. So it's almost like 1.5 acre, 2 acre of a land, and he did the topographical survey. He never reached to the natural ground level.
Oh.
He just gave a total land survey to us, and we asked for borewell points and stuff. He never gave, or probably he fudged the data. We made a concept. There was a way of doing architecture that we were doing. We had thought it through for like 3 months, 4 months. And then we started excavating for the first phase, which is block A and block B we were trying to do. When we started excavating, that is when we realized that the strata that is coming out is actually a dumping ground. So this is all loose soil. There is no natural ground. And we wanted to put our foundation on top of that. Imagine the blunder that could happen.
Yeah.
The soil will not behave now, but when the load is put on it, it will behave later.
Yeah, it'll crumble.
I took a step back and I said to the client that this survey is wrong. And this happens when you are personally visiting the site. So I personally visited the site, I saw that, and I said these are things which are not going right, because even the survey did not match the way the landform was. At times people draw something, but this is not true to the way the landform feels when you are seeing it in person. I walked the length breadth of the site, 2 acres, up and down, and I realized that things don't match exactly the way they are supposed to. We got the survey done again. And then we reached the NGL. And to our, I would say, delight or to our surprise, we were at least 4.5 meters above that. So 4.5 meters of what we were trying to do as a foundation above was actually just, you can say,
Dumping
dumped.
waste.
It was a dumping ground or the dumped soil over there. So
Yeah.
the strata will never hold on to a property which was supposed to be a 21-meter high property over there. So we excavated again, reached to the NGL, we did the survey again, and then we redesigned.
Okay.
So imagine the time it took. It took 1 year just to do that.
Yeah.
And then we started. So as I said, consequence.
Crazy
This is how it
disaster.
happens.
Yeah.
And worst, if we would not have seen it as architect designers, we were not at fault. We can say we were partially at fault, but who was at fault? The survey that was done. It was the incorrect information that was given. Imagine a doctor treating you for the wrong medication or the wrong, disease because the reports say something else.
Yeah.
So this is something that we first-hand experience, and then we build from ground up, and now the property is already up, and we cherish and remember these conversations, that where we were and what we tried to do, and from what we learned at site. So these hands-on experience is something that we really get when you are at site and when you really deep dive into things.
Definitely.
So this was the most expensive mistake that someone could actually do.
So speaking of how you have actually been to a site, and that's good, because I've seen a lot of architects and designers who want to be involved in the process from day one, being on site and seeing from their perspective what things look like, right? When you visit the site, what are you looking for? Is it the topography? Is it your vision? Is it intangible things? What is your thought process?
So whenever I visit a site, let's say take an example of a very recent site visit that I've done, I'm actually not looking for a big outcome from a site. I'm not going in with a big idea. It's very simple. I don't even carry plans around. What I want to do is actually walk the site first.
Okay.
Because the site will give me the right answers. It will make me feel, or I have to, make it the other way around, that I have to hear the site. There are conversations that you will have. Let's say, if I go down a slope, I'm in a raised position, or I'm racing down the hill. Then there will be a plateau. So you will take a rest, you will take a breather. These are certain things which can narrate in an area program. So let's say your staircases, your lifts could be part of that, because you don't want your guests running down those areas. You can't have a ramp over there. So that's a vertical circulation which you have to ease in the area program. When there's a plateau, this is where a congregation or a much larger footprint can come in. And then from that lower level, you could have vistas or views opening up. So these are conversations. Once you walk the site, you really understand what the nuances you are getting out of it. So it's never a big idea of coming into things. It's actually walking the site and understanding what it can be done. And then you go back to the drawing board. And this happens to and fro at least 2 to 3 times. You come back on the drawing board, you mark the areas from where you saw right views. You pin it down to that level, and then you try to put an area program against it. That this gave me a Himalaya view. This gave me a valley view. This was something which could have faced Mussoorie or XYZ. Yeah? All these things, when you mark, then you already have an idea of what exactly, without being there. So this is better than any drone footage or whatever, because it's looking inside, it's looking outward. So you get the right views. You could place your rooms accordingly. You could place your public areas accordingly. You could have your spa and the wellness spaces accordingly, because that is where the site is already telling you the right answers. So this is what you have to start listening.
When you design resorts, do you design them to be remembered or revisited?
I think I answered it in the first go. I would always design a resort that can be revisited. I want them to live that emotion again, but with a better version of themselves, because the property will stay here for 30, 40, 50 years, more than that. And you reinvent, everyone wants to reinvent themselves every year. So when you revisit that property, it should be something very stronger, or a strong emotion that pulls you in to get that property. And that is where the hospitality business is going as well. It is about the end clients who want to revisit the property because they want to be feel heard, understood, and that is something that has the biggest giveaway. You can pack in a lot of numbers, you can pack in a lot of crowd, but it is the true test of the property if you want to revisit that property again, to have that emotion again.
Guest experience is a very prime focus when you're looking at hospitality projects. From the owner's perspective, they want ROIs, but your focus again would be guest experience. How do you it and it's a big tug of war that always keeps happening. How do you manage that?
I would say it's not a tug of war and it's not a binary choice as well. It's something that I can't have a bias on. The guest experience is yes prime and the ROIs is important. Let's consider it this way, that there are two examples, right? You have a very robust machinery that is working but emotionless, and there's something which is all emotional and does not work. You can't have the two. You have to mix it somehow, so the guest experience is what the project wants, what is exactly the right feeling that you want to instill in that project, or the right soul, if I may call it. That every project should have a soul and every site has a soul. So you have to get that soul right. You can't be going wrong over there. To get that soul right and that make it function, or the longevity of it, is ROI. So when we sit with clients and we discuss this, then we tell them that ROI is something, as a matter of, as I said, that if you are making a mistake, there's a consequence. So there is a action and the reaction.
Yeah.
Or the similar way, if the guest really felt that this is what the property had to offer, your ROIs will always go up. You don't have to worry about the ROI. You have to only worry about if your system is not foolproof, if it is not robust, if it is leaking at every now and then half of your guest experience is wasted. So I really believe that the guest first approach has to be there, but it has to be ROI driven. You are not, it's not a well where you're just putting in money, it never reaps something. There is a barter, there is an exchange that happens, and this happens through conversations. This happens through the right framework and the design process that we have built very strongly for ourselves. That the ROI conversation gradually comes up. It's never the first thing. Because if the ROI conversation was to start, the first conversation will start as per key count. The first thing would be like, this is what I want to build in this much time. But architecture is slow, and it is much slower if it is done in the right way.
Would you take up a project where the owner is pushing ROI as a predominant conversation?
We have let go of so many projects that way. We did start with them, but then we felt that the energy or the kind of conversations that we were seeing, they were not matching. And I say a happy architect will always create a happy project. And that is what I have to make my client's experience as well, the guest experience as well. So if I am coming from this sense of timidness, if there's sense of already being controlled, then probably the spaces or the program that I will create, and architecture is very design driven, and obviously it is directional for people. I choose how you walk in a hotel corridor. If it's a 1.8 meter corridor, 2.1, 2.4, or a 1.2. If I make you walk in a corridor of 1.2 meter, you feel like I'm just like stuffed up.
Yeah.
And then if I make you walk in a 2.5 meter corridor, you're like, it's too grand.
Yeah.
So you have to strike the right balance. And these conversations are not just ROI driven. This is more of a narrative and the area program that gets you there. ROI becomes the outcome of that. So your process should be such that it's so robust, it's so intermingled with the right emotion and the right thought process about designing, that ROI should become an outcome. It's just the synthesis of everything.
Right. What are the hardest conversations that you routinely have with the owners?
That's an interesting one. I would say the routine ones are obviously how we can move fast, but the hardest ones are when they come up with unrealistic expectations, and those unrealistic expectations are always with design.
Okay.
Because they consider, with the era of social media, and as I said, we are now the generation that are traveling a lot, and the people who are actually building resorts, hotels all over India, they are well traveled, well learned. Like you said, you have been in Australia, you lived there, you bring something on board, right? But at times we forget that you can't just fit in a space. Like you can't fit in a triangle in a square, it will be a misfit, right? The same way, a space demands something else. You can't have a pre-nominated sort of an idea or a thought process that I want to fit this. So somehow we have to educate the client and wean him off this idea and bring him to the right ones.
Yeah.
So those are the hardest conversations because it takes a lot of time and effort, a lot of back and forth on visualizations, a lot of back and forth on planning, where we let them make a mistake and probably they see it through, but it's just that mask of not wanting to see, which is, let's say, a righteous view of looking at it. And then when they see it, then the answer to them is very obvious. Yeah, we should be doing this. So these conversations are something which becomes very hard for us. Yeah.
What are the most common pitfalls that you would see in a hospitality project? And it could come from anywhere, consultants, owners, architects.
I see it comes from all three aspects of the people who are involved. From operator, if I say that a brand can have its ethos and have its own design line or the way it looks, from a Marriott to a Hyatt to a Radisson or whatever, they have a certain sense of what they want to be. But probably the project might not require that. So there has to be a flexibility of maneuvering it to fit that context.
Okay.
Let's say a project which is there in Jaipur and a project which is there in Dehradun, or a project which might be there in down Goa, south or somewhere, they can't look the same. There is a different, there is a difference of dialect, there is a difference of culture, there is a difference of the way you wear things, the way you see things. The nature has changed, the roads have changed, everything has changed around.
Culture, story.
Exactly, F&B, complete food and everything. From water, the taste of the water changes. So how can you have one packed scheme for everything? So there has to be a way that it can be a little malleable, that you can work around it to get that ethos, but fit in the right space. So that is from the operator perspective. What goes wrong with the architect is this notion of hospitality, that grandeur is better. This notion of hospitality, that it has to be layered up with materials. This looks too superficial. I would be the most happy in a very simply done room rather than just layering it up too much. Because the way the natural material will age, any synthetic material, which I say in choice of projects that we do, if any material which has been not here since 10 years, don't use it. Okay. Let it age for another 10 years. Let it be in the industry for another 10. Let it be in the projects for 10 years and then see how it has reacted. So it has to age gracefully. So as architects, this superficial idea of layering it up with things that don't resonate neither to your concept, but just to make it look, and as I call it, too Instagrammable. They are not spaces to be lived. They are just to be photographed.
Yeah.
You have to have a difference of this. People will forget that photograph where you kept it. You have so many digital repository of photos you might have taken somewhere.
Yeah.
But how many have you actually taken as a printout and kept
framed? Yeah.
And how many you remember?
Yeah.
The emotion or the exact time why that photograph was taken and what were you doing in that photograph. So the art of being present in hospitality has somehow flown away. That people don't want to be present. They want to either post, which is future, what will happen of this photo I posted, I'll get so many likes in this. Yeah. Or the past. It's about the moment. So now hospitality, this the gradual shift is happening. Make the spaces which are for people who are here now, for that space, not something which will be superficial, as I said. Now the third is which comes from the owner perspective. Owners somehow take the whole process for very, for granted.
Okay.
When I say for granted, they try to rush the process. And I say, there's a natural process of having a baby, 9 months. If you have a baby earlier, you would have consequence for the baby or the mother. And if it's too late, then the same problem. There is a right time. And that is the right time has been already decided, or it is pretty much available for everyone to understand, which I said, let's say 36 months to 60 months is what we are taking, a good time. If you rush the process, you will be cutting corners. Or you will be taking wrong decisions if not right. That will have a consequence later. It's better to solve it on paper now. Have those fights today rather than fighting when things are burning down.
Yeah. I'm sure you've had a lot of learnings as well.
certainly.
Can you tell me one instance where you were on a project, something didn't go as what you had planned, and what you took out of it? What did it teach you?
So there has been a good learning and the bad learning, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Good learning was at times when you don't listen to the client, but then that could be the selfishness of an architect, that know that you know the process too much
Okay.
at times because you are too much engrossed in the process. So you are seeing it on a microscopic level, whereas someone could come with a fresh perspective from a macroscopic level and change the whole idea of what you were thinking through. So that happened with a corridor that we designed for a project. And then I wanted a certain finish on a wall, and the client was insisting on a certain finish, which was actually a very good finish we were keeping throughout the property. But here somehow I wanted to try, as I say, wanted to try something different. And when it turned out, we do two mock-ups. So one was with the finish that I wanted, and the second was with what the client liked, and we had done it earlier. So it was just putting it from a different space to this space. And when we walked past that corridor, the way the sunlight was hitting that wall, certainly changed my thought process. They were like, this is beautiful, right? And instead of client saying it, I saw it. And the client kind of, I would say, re-anchored the same thing that we were trying to do with them, right? We tried to show them one or two options and say, we like this one, right? And we asked for mock-up so they can take up their own calls. And I had to take that call, and which was the righteous one at that point. So we took that. The bad one is when you listen to client too much as well.
Okay.
Yes, there is a way, it's like consuming knowledge. Consumption does not mean education. Neither it means knowledge. It's just consumption. There's so much which just filters through. So if you let the client be too much part of the process, you can spoil the fun of the process. Because for you, then it becomes submissions.
Yeah.
It becomes deadlines.
Yeah.
It's like chasing deadlines.
It's a process then for you.
Exactly. Whereas the process is meant to be fun. It's an exploration. It's an exploration of ideas. So now we keep clients at a bay.
Okay.
We let them only where we really need the inputs to come in, and then tell them that let us dissolve it, let us work on it, let us come back with a concrete solution for you, and then we present, and then open to feedbacks. But don't let it become a part on a daily basis, because this is who you are. You are having an interaction with the project 24/7. You want to see it through. So your interaction, that daily interaction is very important. It's almost like, let's say you're meditating, and then someone says roti kha lo and this and that, and your meditation thought process certainly goes for a toss. The process is meditative. The solution will come out when you are listening to it, when you are actually adhering to it. So it is like a very meditative process. So you don't want it to be hindered by any other. It's like distractions. So I say the client is also a distraction at a point where, yes, he is the owner of the project. You are making it for him, but you are doing it for the project as well. At times you have to detach the two.
So you need a little bit of space, breathing space, to
Yes.
make sure that your ideas sort of flourish, to make sure that you are putting the best foot forward and your vision into the project as well.
Yes.
Speaking of vision, you've done quite a few hospitality projects. Can you tell me one project that Ant Studio has done that you can point out and say this project stands with my philosophy completely?
I think what we have done in the past, I will not talk about that because we have already talked a lot.
Yeah.
What is happening right now is something very important.
Okay.
Project in Lansdowne, which is going to be in Manila. So this is one project where we had to, and if I say specifically me, I had to reinvent myself.
Okay.
Because it was more muted and more on the lines of sustainability, and when we say sustainability, not like superficial, but really true to its nature. So what we had done in Hyatt Regency Dehradun, we had a lot of finishes to play with. Here this was restraint.
Okay.
And we are doing the architecture over there, and the scale is again big. So how to make it still feel intimate, still make it feel it belongs to that place, rather than being celebrating the structure. It was all about celebrating the landscape. So how the landscape will sit on it, or how it sits in the landscape. So that architecture I felt was all about the conversation of borrowing from the land. So not making architecture as the hero, but it's like a barter with the land. There's a conversation with the land. There, if I can really cut and fill here, if I should do it here, just fitting in the architecture in a way that it looks that it was always here. So it looks very monastical right now. It looks very much like a monastery was always there and
Okay.
built on top of it. So this is something that has made me reinvent, the wheel, and we see that project opening very soon. In 27, hopefully we'll be open. But that learning has really, carved that thought process of how exactly now, and studio will think on projects which come off the scale. So at times it's like a lot of unlearning, a lot of unlearning from what you feel are the values that you had started with. So you develop on values. You don't just stick on to them. You change with time, and you understand that this is the right answer to a certain problem. You always felt that only this could be. So I say that very strongly always. That design is all about making mistakes. It's just the right one that you choose to put. So you make almost 1,000, but maybe the 1,001 is the right answer. So it's all about allowing you that time to, talk to the site, talk to the architecture that you have actually developed, and then the answer comes to.
As a guest, not as an architect, which is a favorite hotel in India or even globally?
Globally, I have not been, but I want to go to Amangiri.
Okay.
But I would have, so I never see them on booking.com.
Where is it?
So Amangiri has been in, this is US.
Okay.
So US, they have this sort of a, how do you say, it's like a desert formation.
Okay.
So in that desert formation, they have made this Aman. And that project certainly celebrates the kind of the rawness of that space. So imagine in a desert, there's nothing, it's arid, it's very dry, and then that kind of a project puts you in a very different, strong emotion of being in that space. So that is one project that internationally I would want to go to. And then the second one I would say that I have visited in India is Udain Bhavan.
Okay.
So that is, I would say that is celebration of architecture. How architecture can be celebrated, the way the floral motifs work, the way the detailing works, the way one single material has been applied 10 different places for different finishes. So it's like going to the extreme level of refining, understanding the same material. So that is something that really takes me away, and that's like an awe-inspiring moment every time you visit, and you keep visiting the same place. But as I said, the same it could be for the same season. It could be for the same kind of
Occasion.
Occasion, yes,
Yeah.
you can say, or even at times it does not. It changes. It just changes you. Maybe something in me has changed. The emotion that I have entered has changed. The relationship with the property has changed. Now, how I look where I was, it was a celebrated property where I got to, this is my early years of architecture that I like, I could go and stay.
Yeah.
Like I spent to stay.
Yeah.
Now it is like the events that have been done, and
Yeah.
then you are just now the thought of that you spent on this has gone by, but you are living it. So those kind of nuances really matter.
Interesting. Young architects who want to enter into hospitality, what is one piece of advice that you will tell them?
Experience it first, I would say. Travel as much as you can. Go to a different boutique hotel. Try luxury hotels if you can afford it. But have the opportunity to walk these corridors, walk these languages, understand how exactly they work. And when I say experiential, from three factors. One is the design factor. The second is the operation factor of it, where things are coming from, what are hidden from you, what are not hidden from, what you can see. And the third is from the operator perspective, why they made this here and not something else. So you should always have that curiosity of questioning everything. So this is something as young architects can look forward to in hospitality, is really listening to what the thing has been done and what it could have been is your narrative. What is your outcome of this? Because this experience will ultimately, when you start practicing yourself, you translate it and shape it in your work.
Definitely. And on the flip side, if you were to give a piece of advice to the developer or the owner?
Uh, I would say to the developer and the owner is that fall in love with the process. Have depth in your process rather than just making scale.
Superficial, yeah.
Yeah, so don't go for the scale of it. Don't go for the depth of it, because depth is something that can be uh, you can volumetrically increase it, but depth will always have a very strong foundation.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We'll do a quick rapid fire before we conclude the podcast.
Sure.
So tell me one overrated hospitality trend.
One overrated hospitality trend would be hmm, I think superficial luxury
Okay.
or superficial sustainability, if I call it.
Okay.
Everyone going for a lead, greyhound, this and that, but it actually is not practiced.
One underrated design move in resorts.
Repetition.
Repetition.
Yes. Repetition creates memory.
Do you prefer natural materials or high-tech systems?
100% natural materials. The technology is for our ease, but do not make it possible.
Would you prefer a boutique resort or a 300 key property?
A 300 key property done in a boutique fashion.
Yeah.
And boutique, when I say, is very intimate, that it really listens to fragment those 300 rooms in different parts. That everyone has a certain way of, having a certain emotion, one, having a certain sense of belonging. And third is when you have this sense of belonging, then the people will really come back.
One design rule that you would like to break?
I don't go by the design principles that have been created by the brands. I generally want to reinvent them, and I break every rule that probably they would think through, because I want to question why this. Because these books have been, maybe they are great every now and then, but why it was started is something that has dissolved out now.
Okay. Fantastic. This has been a great podcast. And coming from, as I told you already, that I come from a hospitality background. I served a few years.
I
in
hope
that
I was
sector.
able to give a different insight on how
Oh,
the architects.
there are a few things that were pretty spot on, and it just goes to show that just because you are a hotel owner doesn't necessarily mean that you can make sure that you run the hotel perfectly, or you're getting the design process in place as well.
Yeah.
It is such a nuanced subject, and as we've spoken about how hospitality industry is growing in India so significantly, and there are influx of tourists both internationally and domestically. We need good spaces. We need spaces that speak to people and are revisited again and again, because oftentimes what happens is you build that memory when you're in that space, and that memory stays for you is etched in time, so we really do hope that the hospitality spaces in the coming future are to be revisited. So thank you again for taking the time out and sharing your thoughts on this.
Thank you for having me. It has been a lovely one.